suffering be dispelled. Let all pain and suffering be dispelled. Well, hello, it's just very, very lovely to be here with you. I have to preface this by saying that I'm doing this on a BT Wi-Fi do, because I'm at the talk of John Kells, my Tai Chi master in Bath, who I've just been introducing to the crowd here, and I have to be here to go back in and do the questions and answer bit with him after. So I'm running the satsang from a yoga centre in Bath and couldn't get on their Wi-Fi, so if the connection's bad, let Sue know and she'll send me a message or tell me something and I'll do it on the phone. But providing you can hear what I'm saying and it's all good, it's really lovely to be here with you. I was facing what I thought was a nasty cancer scare for 3 weeks until Wednesday, when I got the all clear, and it was a very, very enjoyable experience, and I'm not saying that sarcastically at all. I was completely equanimous throughout the process, facing the possibility of death, facing the possibility of a colostomy bag, facing the possibility of chemotherapy, and all the stuff that we generally would tend to freak out about was all fine. It was all like whatever destiny has in store, I go with graciously. And I tell you this, not boasting by any means, because I'm too aware of, you know, the sudden shocks and surprises that can happen at any moment to any of us to be cavalier about it or blasé. But just to say that the technique that I'll be sharing with you here, that I have been doing in these satsangs, the Taoist meditation technique, really, really, really works. It really does. It's amazing how it takes you out of the drama and enables you to sit back in the part of you that bears witness. And this part that bears witness is, I would suggest, that immortal part of you, that eternal part of you, the part of you that if something does go on, and again I wouldn't presume to say for sure it does, but it certainly feels to me that it does when people that I love have died, that's the part that goes on. It's the eternal part. And the more we identify with that, this background presence, in a psychospatial way, in a quite pragmatic way rather than an imaginary, fanciful way, the less the drama of being who we are impinges on our peace of mind. And it was a privilege to experience that. And there was no real shift in my mood when I heard the coming out of the colonoscopy, the what do you call it, the bowel guy, saying you're absolutely clear. There wasn't any shift. It was just like, oh, well, that's good, because I get to taste more of everything that I love. Of course, that's good. It's good to be alive. It's beautiful to be alive. But it wasn't that what you'd imagine. Oh, wow, fantastic, redemption. It was just good, beautiful. And it was beautiful before that as well. There's something quite privileged about having to face your mortality. One of the things that I learned from it, and this isn't going to be all about that, this is all about confidence, but I suppose that it's very linked. One of the things that I learned spontaneously was this. I've been aware for a long time, as I'm sure you have as well, that gratitude for being alive is one of the major keys for feeling joyful, for not feeling sorry for yourself, for not being in a depression, but for feeling, you know, being elated, being alive, just being grateful. So rather than lament what you haven't got and being fearful about what might go wrong, you try and supplement those thoughts with, wow, thank you, I'm alive, this is beautiful. thank you for all the people I love and you love me, thank you for the sky, for the ground, and all of that, where we are right now. But what happened to me spontaneously was a process over a couple of weeks or so of incredibly clear memories of everything that's gone before in my life, my whole life story from zero till now, and a spontaneous gratitude for that. I have never got there before. I've never actually stopped to say or think, thank you for the story I've had. And it was quite remarkable to look back on everything, the painful bits, the beautiful bits, and go, thank you. What an incredible ride this has been. Thank you. And it made me think that I wanted to share that with you, because I've started now doing that as a sort of practice, because that's how this Taoist stuff works. You practice these little steps on a daily basis. Some days you feel it, some days you're just going through the motions. But practicing that gratitude for everything that has come before in my life, if you do the same, it brings you current, it brings you up to date, so that if you were to die in the next 10 minutes, the next hour, I hope you don't, but we never know when it's going to happen, you wouldn't die thinking, oh, that's a swizz, I didn't get my money's worth, because you're up to date. You said thank you for this incredible ride of being alive. That means you're free to go, which also means you're free to stay. I say all this in respect of that this is the depth that I believe we must learn to come from, especially when we come together in the satsang, because then we will elicit a great jewel for all of us here, which is the idea of it, isn't it? The jewel of enlightenment, the jewel of awakeness, the jewel of cognition of what a miracle it is to be alive, that life itself is magic, that each of us is magic, pure magic, in the sense that it's this incredibly unfathomable trick of the light. And therefore, by tuning into this miraculous manifestation of the world all around us and our experience of it, we are then able to somehow, it seems, influence or guide or roll with in the most harmonious way the positive current and somehow accentuate that to elicit certain effects. Ultimately, of course, it makes no difference. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. And I do so firmly believe that everything is destined, and that there's absolutely no point fighting what happens, just to acquiesce, to accept, to go with good grace with whatever is occurring, to receive everything as an expression of absolute love, whether it's painful or pleasurable, and not to fight it, because it's a waste of energy fighting it, but at the same time not to submit in weakness, not to be defeated either. So there's always this willingness to experience and manifest the very, very best at all times, and yet there's this complete acquiescence to the fact that you could go at any moment, and if you do, you go with good grace, or things could tip upside down at any moment, and if they do, you experience it with good grace. It's pragmatic, it's expedient, because by doing that, things seem to right themselves much more quickly than if you indulge a melodrama about what's happening. That just wastes lots of energy and precludes clear thinking, which is really important if you want to have finesse in your experience from moment to moment. So if you've never been before, or if you have been before, satsang is a Sanskrit word. It's not therefore particular to Taoist practice, but this stuff is all universal. I mean, these names, Taoism, Hinduism, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. They're just different descriptions, really, and different flavors of the same thing. And I've always been partial to satsang, because as well as studying the Taoist arts and many other things, I've always been associated with the practice of yoga and various Indian gurus and what have you. So I've been to many traditional satsangs in my own life, and from the age of early 30s, when I came back to when I was back in the UK after living with the Native Americans for 4 years, spontaneously developed a Tuesday night satsang at my house in West Hampstead, which gradually built up to being about 50 people shoved into quite a small room, in which I would extemporize, I'd ad-lib and run through exactly as I do here, I close my eyes, I go into the meditation, rather than go by rote and go through a specific routine. I'll just allow what wants to come through, and then I'll transmit that verbally as we're going. And so it's something I've been doing because I'm 59 now. How long is that? That's, gosh, that's 30 years of doing this. And what satsang, traditionally, you go to the ashram, you sit with the guru would hold forth on whatever topic was pertinent that day. There would then be half an hour sitting together in absolute silence, usually, meditating together, followed by questions and answers. Well, because of the medium, the advantage of this medium is that we're able to partake from the comfort of our own armchairs, so to speak, and also that we don't have to deal with the usual nonsense that occurs in any social setting where we are obliged to some extent to go through the kind of mammalian tendencies to posture and try and impress and, you know, use the personalities and go through all that nonsense. We can dispense with all that completely so that we just meet as consciousness, which is a rare privilege. On the other hand, to sit here in absolute silence together, although it's something I would want to experiment with one day, seems a little bit daft and redundant because we could do that on our own without the technology. Therefore, instead of the silent bit, I tend to guide as I was describing before. And in any case, it's something that I like to do and people seem to enjoy, because it's not just about meditating, it's about communing, and it's about collectively channeling this, what you might want to call deeper, higher, bigger consciousness collectively. And that creates some kind of alchemical reaction amongst us all and within us all that causes a synergy. And this synergy, this exponentially multiplied energy, creates some kind of positive effect in the lives of everyone present. The effects are quite powerful, I find, in my own life. It seems to accentuate, amplify the intensity of the adventure of life, but it also definitely increases the ability to sit back into the background presence, which is something we'll do shortly, and thereby remain equanimous no matter what's happening to you. And that's actually as difficult when things are going your way as it is when they're not. In fact, in some ways, it's easier when they're not going your way. It's like when you are walking up a mountain, it's actually easier in some ways once you get into the rhythm to walk up, even though it's more strain on the body, because you've got something to focus on. When you start walking down, it's quite difficult because there's no traction and you can slip. It actually takes quite a lot of energy to walk down gracefully. So the satsang is a Sanskrit word which means coming together in truth. We all come together in truth. Magic, it originally comes from a Persian word, magush, which means to influence events with the mind, with intention. Why did I call this one Right Up series? Because it's just a bit of, I'm half Cockney and it's a bit of like magic, you'll whatever, right up. Just kind of appeals to my sense of street language. And it's the idea, though, that it's a bit of a quantum leap. We want to instigate a quantum leap in various areas of our lives. And why confidence to begin with? Because it seems to me at the moment that confidence is one of those qualities that if we have going at full power, we can do anything. When there's confidence, we can do anything. This, like, the fearful state is what blocks us from enjoying and taking advantage of and contributing to the adventure to the full. The fearful state limits us and limits everything about us. And as I said, eventually it makes no difference at all. We're all going to die. We're all going to pass into the immortal state, presumably. So whether you were confident or unconfident doesn't really matter. But while you're here, if you instill confidence in yourself and you amplify it exponentially, your experience will expand exponentially with it, and thereby your contribution to the world will increase, as will your reward from the world. And I think that's really what we want, isn't it? To contribute the very most at all times without sacrificing ourselves, and in reward to receive the contributions of the world to us. And the reason it's important is because we need to transact with each other. We're a herd and we're a tribe, we need to transact. We cannot live in isolation. It's one of the main sources of energy, this transaction energy. And it's very important for the health that we transact in a powerful, clean way. And that happens when we are in the back of ourselves, when we are of the background presence and the heart is open, so that we're able to commune with love rather than with an agenda in the brain. Confidence, it's like you confide in somebody because you trust them. You confide in yourself means you trust yourself. Fidere, from the Latin, means to trust. It's the same as faith. It's where the word faith comes from. Con means with, and literally means to hold the faith with yourself. Now, this implies a certain integrity or an integration of the various aspects of self. So there's the background presence, the witness bearer, there's the big you that goes on forever and ever, presumably. And then there's this local self, this constructed self that you started concocting at the beginning of it all and has gradually become more and more complex and more convincing, to the point that when you think of yourself, you probably think of this constructed self, this drama self, if you like, the self that's going through the story, the character in the film or the play. And so holding the faith with yourself implies that the constructed self, the bit of you that is totally lost in the drama of your worldly progress, has to have faith in your big self, your background presence. Your big self has to have faith in your constructed self, your personality, whatever you want to call it. That has something to do with character as well. There has to be some kind of holding the faith with your character, and having character enables you to hold the faith. And then there has to be a willingness to hold, or an ability, a capacity to hold the faith with the background presence of all existence and non-existence, not just the bit of it particular to you, the Tao or the God, whatever you want to call it. So but the faith, holding the faith in the Tao, in the big presence, isn't an act of blind belief. It's not like in a religion. It arises naturally and spontaneously when you hold the faith with the background presence within you, that bit that feels familiar to you, your soul. So we'll be doing that. This is one of the most powerful techniques I've ever encountered. It derives from the Taoist martial arts, which have it that when you go into battle or into combat, the strength of you is in the back. The weakness is in the front. The front's vulnerable and exposed. If you fight from the back of you, if you center yourself in the back of you, you are one with the strength and are much more able then to overcome the opponent, as well as which you don't have the fear, because the front of you doesn't really exist anymore. As soon as you come into the back of you, the constructed self seems to dissipate. So when I was going through the supposedly facing up to my death, imminent death perhaps, there was no drama about it, because that part of me that would die, the personality, the construct, doesn't exist. So there wasn't a drama, because I remained fully in the back of me the whole way through. And that's the same as when going into a sparring situation, which is kind of apt to mention now, because I've got my old Tai Chi master of 40 years in the next room. I might have lost my thread there. I do that to myself sometimes. The confidence that arises when there is this integration between your local self, your constructed self, and this background presence, and then between all of that and the big presence of the universe itself. I only make distinctions for the sake of semantics, just to explain. Really, it's all one. Is somehow facilitated also by how you talk to yourself. Now, for some reason, it occurs to me, having studied the human condition fairly extensively and intensively for 45 years or so now, and having worked with people, hundreds of thousands and millions of people over the years, the human condition seems to comprise a tendency to put ourselves down, to punish ourselves, to criticize ourselves, to talk harshly to ourselves, to be unkind to ourselves. It's insidious, it's subtle, and we don't even realize we're doing it most of the time. And it takes the form of, for example, I would, looking into my own mind at the unconscious, semi-conscious level, you're not going to get this one together. You're not going to be able to do this one. You're going to mess this one up. You don't really know what you're doing. Therefore, what if it doesn't work? What will happen then? Well, then you're probably going to, everything's going to collapse because you don't know how not to make that happen. Now, this is not the only voice running in my head, but it's one of them. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same one running in most people's heads. The one that just tends to put us down. And it's so convincing and it's so entrenched, so deeply wired in, that we don't really question whether it has sanctity or not. And I suggest it has no sanctity to it. We are not obliged to keep doing that. So I've been experimenting over the years and getting more and more adept at this, of not doing that, but to the contrary, doing like talking to myself like, you know what you're doing, you know what to do, you know exactly what to do. You're going to pull this one off, fine, and everything's going to work out okay. Yep, you know what to do. You know what to do. You're good. I trust you. You know what to do. Now, it's a discipline. I have to train myself to be like that. But that's part of what I want to impart today, to suggest that in the coming days after this, to remember to do that with yourself, to note the voice that's saying you're going to mess this up, you don't know what you're doing. Thank it for being there, because it's only trying to protect you from messing up. It's just an inefficient way of doing it. And then supplement that thought with or override it with a, you know what to do. I trust you. You're my leader. In other words, you are leading yourself well. Now, if you look at any leader of people, or if you've ever been led by a good leader, there's something about if you give the leader their head, if you go leader, go, we trust you, we're going with you, they tend to lead you better than if you start questioning them all the time. And but conversely, you'll only start questioning them if they're not fully confident with themselves and going for it as a good leader. There's a bit of a paradox there. But this willingness to trust yourself, to lead yourself well, and this will come from being in the back of you. Now, in a way, it comes down to knowing that, because see, I suspect that the reason we punish ourselves is for some bizarre cause. We believe that the Tao, the primal cause of everything, does not love us. There's a moment where the heart opens and there's this sudden realization that, life does love me. The Tao really does love me. And of course it does, because what you are is a manifestation, an expression of that. Why would it not love you? Why would it not love itself? If the Tao can't love itself, what can? And therefore, it's manifested itself as you, and so it will love you. It does love you. Of course it does. It was never in question. Us questioning it is some strange dynamic that evolved in society, and goodness knows why, goodness knows when. But there it is, and our role now, if we want to evolve, is to transcend that level. Yeah, here we all are. Now, I'm slightly distracted because people are coming and going in and out of the space to go to the loo, because I'm in the foyer here. I've been thinking for this meditation, well, it's something I've been using for myself a lot. Confidence is not just about you feeling confident and trusting yourself to lead yourself. It's like, this has to be set in context. What are you leading yourself in, through? What is it? Where are we? So we're on an adventure, as far as we can tell. There's some sense of forward momentum. The planet that we're on, apart from spinning on its axis at 1,000 miles an hour, is also zooming around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. The sun is zooming around the galaxy, and the galaxy is zooming through space. So there is a sense of movement, a sense of adventure, a movement from place to place. And I liken the role that we're playing, or the effect of this, the sort of aerodynamics of it, to an aeroplane. Now, with an aeroplane, the mechanics of flight are that you have thrust, which is the forward movement of the plane. That meets with resistance from the air because it's bashing into it at high speed, and that's called drag. Then you have the weight of the plane, this big construct in the air, and that's called weight. So that's pulling it downwards. But then you have lift, which is caused by the wind passing over and under the wings, facilitated by the thrust, but with a ballast of drag, if I'm making any sense. So the idea of achieving confidence, it has to be set against the context in which we are to experience this confidence. So I want to, in the meditation bit, instill the idea of, a bit like being an aeroplane, you've got this forward thrust, your motivation, you're moving into your destiny. You have the drag, which is the resistance to that, which is the ballast, without which you just kind of fly off into the future and never come back. The ballast that holds you somehow here on the earth plane, the drag, if you like. The difficulties in life, the things that we sort of bemoan, but in fact require to stop us just dissipating. And then you have the weight, which is the natural sinking downwards because of gravity to meet with the power of the ground. And this is where you get your gravitas from. This is where somehow your material solidity, your substance. And then you have lift, the tendency or the urge of the spirit to get high. You've got to go deep to get high. And that is the urge towards evolution. Simultaneously, the forward thrust, as I mentioned before, is this idea that you're moving into your destiny, and the idea of making peace with your destiny. And the drag, the sort of sense of what's behind you, is you honouring the past, as I was mentioning before, but not only your past, but your ancestors. In other words, everything that's brought you to this point. So there's a way of it, is you're finding your coordinates in the time-space continuum. Having said all that, I would like you now, because we're going to go into the meditation part, to allow yourself to settle and get comfortable in your seat, wherever you are. Take a breath, breathe out, and as you exhale, just let everything soften a little bit. Let yourself sink a little bit. Let yourself surrender to your physicality. Get a feeling of gathering yourself, assembling yourself around your belly button. So that's like the physical center of gravity. So there's a sense of, letting go. Let your eyelids lower. If you can keep them just a slit open at the bottom to let the light in and to allow the beautiful images and light from the screen to bathe you and bathe your brain. Do so. If you can't, just let them close altogether. Get a feeling that somebody is suspending the crown of your head towards the ceiling by virtue of an invisible silver thread that affords you more length in your spinal column, especially at the back of the neck. You'll notice as soon as your neck elongates, the mind becomes instantly clearer. This enables you to sink even more, because if you're being suspended from the ceiling by the crown, you can let the weight of your body drop down even further. So you feel simultaneously the lift and the weight. Let your shoulders drop. There's no need to hold them up. And as they drop, let them broaden right across the shoulder girdle and the thoracic region. Very, very subtly raise the breastbone, by which I mean focus on where your thymus gland is at the top of your chest and urge it slightly forwards and upwards in a subtle gesture of rising up to all that is beautiful, both within you and around you. Let your hips be broad rather than squeezing the hips narrow. Let your sit bones slide apart from each other. Afford yourself that luxury so you have a broad base, something to sit on. Now you can afford to let all the muscles of the body soften. So you can imagine, if you like, someone pouring an elixir, like a treacle, over your head, like a maple syrup. For those of you in the USA or Canada, you allow this syrup, this magic syrup, to flow all down over your head, your face, inside your head, through your brain, down through your arms, into your shoulders, shoulder blades, the upper back, the lower back, the chest, the upper belly, the lower belly, down your sides, down into your pelvic floor, through your buttocks, through your legs, through your arms to your extremities, so that the entirety of your physical person is now filled with this treacle-like substance, which represents softening. This treacle substance is imbued with this magical power to soften you, so that from the crown of your head all the way to the soles of your feet and your fingertips, you are feeling completely and utterly soft. Let this softness move all the way into your bone marrow, so that even the hardest part of your body, your bones, are now filled with softness, the essence of softness. Remember that softness does not imply weakness. To the contrary, it's from softness that true strength derives. Because even mechanically speaking, by softening the muscles and sinews, the blood and the chi are able to move through more freely. And it's that your strength derives from. You'll note that your tendency is to hold the breath to protect you against the pain of life. For now, at least, you're safe in here. You're in the company of 200 people all the way around the planet, all beautiful people, beautiful souls. Just stop holding your breath and allow the breathing to slow down and even out the length of the in-breath and the out-breath. Let the breath be silken and smooth. And you'll notice as this happens that your mind tone becomes softer, smoother, more silken, more positive feeling. Now, get a feeling of the two halves of your breastbone opening up sideways. Just going to ask somebody to do this. Would you mind, excuse me, would you mind not, it's very hard to concentrate with you talking in here, would you mind? You open up the two halves of the breastplate, and it's like you're revealing the core beauty, the gorgeousness of your heart right in the core of your chest. It's very, very important, because this is what's connecting all of us together. And next comes the big move. This is the important part. You have the choice now of being in the front of you, where you've got the drama and the vulnerability, the weakness, the noise, the interference, the excitement and the fear of the world, the drama of life. And you have the back of you. The back of you is still, it's powerful, it's connected to all that has come before. It's connected to your wealth of experience, the power of who you are. Sink back now as if leaning back inside a comfy chair. Sink all the way back inside so that you're leaning back against your shoulder blades, the front of your spine, your pelvic bones, your sacral bone. Just like leaning back in a very, very well-designed chair. So you're totally comfortable inside. Now tilt the skull slightly backwards, just a half a millimetre or so. It's just a gesture. And get the feeling that as if the inside of the skull was a cave with a floor in it, that your mind is sliding back along the floor of the skull until it's now resting against the rear wall of the skull. You're now leaning all the way back inside, and your mind is in the back of your head. Don't strain to do this. If you find it difficult, don't worry, just get glimpses of it even. But by tilting the head back so that you slid back like a Buddha who couldn't help but tumble along the floor of the cave until laughing and chuckling is now leaning back against the rear wall of the cave, gazing out into infinity through the mouth of the cave. And underneath that, inside, everything very still and powerful, you are now the background presence within you. You'll notice that the drama of being you has fallen away. The tension in the solar plexus is now under your command. You can turn it down if you want a bit. The heart which is normally a little bit closed over to protect you from pain, you can now open up a little bit more. The noise that's in the front of the brain usually that comes from you discussing life with yourself endlessly, you'll notice has stopped. Now, it doesn't last long, this rarefied state. There will be a tendency to come forwards, to get pulled by the fascination of life in front of you. But there's this option, and when you take this option, you have power. You have silence, you have stillness, you're in command. There is no drama. Like this, you are your immortal self and can face your death. If you can face your death, you can totally face your life. So here you have power. Now, you have a stream of energy that runs up the rear of the spine and a stream of energy that runs down the front of the spine. It goes from the tip of the spine up to the crown of the head, the skull being considered to be like the uppermost expanded vertebra. And then it goes down behind the face and along the front of the spine, between your legs, and then hooks back to go up again along the rear of the spine. Now, as you breathe in, imagine that you're activating a line of light as fine as like a laser beam, an optical fiber, that travels instantaneously from the tip of the spine to the crown of the head. And as you breathe out, the same light travels down the front part of the tube, down the front of the spine to between the legs. Every time the light goes up the rear of the spine, it's strengthening you. It's filling you with power. It's reinforcing your internal power. Every time the line of light goes down the front part of you, it's reinforcing and amplifying your grace, your levels of grace, your acquiescence, your willingness to surrender to the mystery rather than have the arrogance to fight and resist it. And this is done to protect your spirit body when you engage in any alchemical process that as we are about to do. Having done this now, you're safe, you're protected. I want you now to let go of being everything you're used to being completely and start sinking backwards even more. So the background presence in you is sinking backwards through inner space. And as it sinks backwards through inner space, it grows larger. And as it grows larger, it moves faster because there's more velocity, there's more power and momentum. As it moves faster, it moves further. And as it moves further, it grows larger. And as it grows larger, it moves faster. And as it moves faster, it moves further. So that you get this exponential acceleration moving backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards, so far and so fast and becoming so large, so huge, that eventually you are everything. You actually feel yourself now containing the entirety of existence and non-existence, co-containing it with all the other participants in here with you, so that there is this one massive, massive background presence that somehow encompasses all of us. And not only all of us, but all of everybody on this planet to start with. So there's a sense of our combined presence containing all our brothers and sisters on the planet, as if we're carrying them along. We're taking responsibility for them right now. And at the same time, somehow, containing the entirety of existence and non-existence, matter and antimatter. So stay back, stay back, stay back, stay back, stay back, all the way inside, all the way inside. Now, I ask you to ask yourself, in this mode, how is it possible to not be fully confident? How is it possible to be anything other than completely confident? In other words, to be holding the faith with yourself fully, because there is only the self. There cannot be anything else, and therefore there cannot be anything to feel unconfident about. I'd like you to, from this rarefied state of universality, to now picture your local self, your constructed being. And I want you to see your local self gazing back at you from a distance of a few meters, smiling with such radiance and joy and confidence, obviously. supreme, unshakable, unwavering confidence, whether in the face of death, whether in the face of suffering, whether in the face of anything that could be considered adverse. There is nothing in you that feels the fear of that, nothing in you that resists that, nothing in you that is fighting that, or is it anything other than feeling absolutely, supremely confident? See that face smiling back at you. And the message yourself is giving you, this confident version of you, is stop playing that silly game of not being confident. It's just a ruse and it's unnecessary. Everyone will love you even more if you allow yourself to be the confident being that you are. You no longer need to pretend that you're not, just to be included in the crowd because everybody else is playing the game of not being confident. You be the one that gives the demonstration, that is the exemplar of perfect, unshakable confidence now. That's your role, your duty, if you like. That's the message that your confident self is giving you. And I want you to imbibe the energy of this confident self as if you're sucking it into your being, into every cell of your body, and feel it. Feel it. Actually feel your physical form, which is way out there in front of you in earth plane reality, because you're watching all this from way, way behind. See your local self being filled, every single cell, with this essence of supreme, unshakable confidence. See that when you come out of this satsang and you go about your rounds, you're doing so from here on in, no longer paying lip service, no longer feeling obliged to pander to the ruse of being not confident anymore. No longer need to play that game. That's the vow. So that when you come out of this meditation, you will come out henceforth transformed, in the sense of no longer having to pander to this pretense of not being the fully confident being you are. Now in this state, as we sit, 200 of us all the way around the planet, divested of our usual local personalities and masks, we're in this rarefied, privileged position of containing, if you like, the essence of all existence within us, collectively. So it behooves us now to use this moment to devote or dedicate energy to all our brothers and sisters on the planet, all of whom are suffering, behind the smiles, behind the noise, behind the distractions, behind whatever. Everybody's in a state of suffering, dealing with the existential crisis. Every single human being is dealing with the pain of separation, the fear of death, the fear of discomfort, fear of things going wrong, and so on and so on and so on. So we, right now, in this state of supreme confidence, must send them this energy so that every single person on the planet right now, even the total arseholes, are filled with this supreme confidence. Because with this, there comes integrity. With this, there comes an ethos of decency, of taking care of each other. So get the sense that everybody right now is being filled with the very essence of connectedness to all that is, and the supreme confidence that derives therefrom. See it. See everybody, all 7+ billion people, every single one, especially the ones who are suffering at the hands of others, the ones who are being oppressed and so on and so forth. Every single person feeling this confidence that yes, it can be okay. Yes, I do know what to do. Yes, I know how to make this work. Yes, I know how to step out of this fearful, violent, small-minded state and become a loving being, which is what I want to be, which is what everybody wants to be, instead of the opposite. See it. See the planet transformed, everybody on it, and a kind of glow happening that wasn't hitherto there. Something beautiful in the air in honor of this equinox that we're passing through, this tipping point in the year. And with that feeling in mind, allow yourself to come forwards now, come forwards back into your body, but remain in the back of you. So you're back present in the so-called everyday state, more or less, in your body, but you're in the back of you. And be aware that as we re-enter, there is this thrust, there's this innate, natural thrust into destiny. It's unavoidable, it's inevitable. And countering this as a ballast to stop you going nuts is the drag, what happens when the power of you moving forwards meets with resistance. Value that, love that. There's a sense of weight, you're feeling that you're sinking to meet the earth and the material plane, and there's the sense of lift that comes through the thrust, the energy, the forward motion moving through your soul, your wings, if you like, the wings of your soul. Simultaneously, be aware that what's behind you is your past, your ancestors. Give thanks for that. What's in front of you is the mystery of your destiny. Welcome and embrace that. Give thanks for that. And in the center of it all is the very pith of your being. So sink back fully into that. Relax and slowly open your eyes and come back into the everyday state. Feeling beautiful and amazing and wonderful. And we will now hand over to Sue at the perfect moment, because everybody's come out into the foyer here, so it's going to get a bit noisy just for the questions and answers bit. And here we go. Over to you, Sue.
Hello.
Gosh, for a moment there I thought I'd just been doing that all to myself. It would have been a real shame. Anyway, hi.
Yeah, just having a bit of trouble hearing you there, Stephen, but I think I can hear you okay now. So I'll start with a question from Sabine, who is just being curious. Could it be that confidence issues manifest in pain in the shoulders or back?
Yeah, I think we hunch over when we're not feeling confident. We tend to contract and go into like a tortoise-like shell, which draws the shoulders forwards and pulls the head forwards, and that causes the trapezius muscles and the sternocleidomastoid muscles to contract, and that would definitely account for that. It could also be related to lung energy deficiency because of a not quite having come to peace with your past yet. That tends to be, there's a sort of coming forwards away from the past, trying to escape it, whereas what we need to do is to embrace it and be thankful for it and bless it and so on. Hope that helps, Sophie.
Mike says, hey Doc, I usually have confidence in my own opinions as long as I get to talk first. If someone else does, I doubt myself.
Hi Mike. Well, I think opinions are only opinions. I don't think they in themselves are necessarily the symptom of confidence. I mean, they are only opinions. I think we can be all over the place with our opinions and it's still not actually be anything to do with innate confidence or lack of. They are only opinions. I think what I find in conversation with anybody, negotiating anything, is if I'm in the back of me, if I stay in the back and I stay breathing just like we were doing, what seems right for everybody, what seems fair, which is what we're after, isn't it, for everybody, somehow emerges of itself. And opinions aren't so much what need to be expressed, it's just a truthfulness that arises spontaneously when we are in the back of ourselves. So I would say as a shortcut for the confidence, just come into the back, sink the weight down, breathe, expand the posture, soften all the muscles, open the heart so that you're receiving the other from in a state of love, and the right things will be said of themselves. The conversation will speak itself out.
Julian's question is, my confidence always goes if I fail at something. How can I stop this?
I think, did you say Julian or Gillian?
Gillian.
Gillian. I think don't stop it. It's natural to wobble. The part of us that is attached to the drama of being Gillian, Stephen, whoever, is in the front. That's when we're in the front of ourselves, and it's inevitable that when things go against us, that part of us will go, oh God, I'm such a dick, nothing's ever going to work. I knew I hadn't have it, and all the confidence thing that goes. So you observe it, come into the back of you, you observe that process occurring. You bless yourself, oh bless you, going through that, with compassion, and you just, in doing that, it dissolves, that whole thing dissolves much faster than by getting lost in there. So the key again is dropping back inside and bearing witness to, accommodating the process of a confidence wobble rather than identifying with it and getting lost in it, in other words. So it's inevitable. Of course we're going to, that's what makes life fun, of course. You know, it's inevitable. But rather than be lost in it, observe it from the back of you. I mean, the Buddhists talk about observing constantly, but there's no one other than this Taoist system talk about doing it from the back of you, and that's the key. That's what makes it happen. That's what makes it real.
David is asking if you can please kindly advise. He says, I often proceed throughout the day feeling confident, but when I note that which I want to manifest does not happen, my confidence sinks.
Yeah, that's, again, I think it's similar to Gillian's question. It's when we pin our self-worth on what we're able to manifest externally, when we judge ourselves by how well we manifest whatever it is we want, that inevitably it's going to go against us, because it's yin and yang. It comes with us, it goes against us. When it goes against us, there will be this constant confidence drop. Again, you just watch it from the back and know that when something doesn't happen, it's because something else is going to happen, and it doesn't happen to allow the other thing. And it's only a dance between one extreme and the other anyway, which is all just really entertainment while we're preparing to leave the planet, which is the ultimate trip. So it's not to be taken too seriously, any of it. What you manifest or you don't manifest, your worth is not based on that. Your worth is that you are the divine presence in human form. And the more you remember that, strangely, paradoxically it seems, the more what we think of as needing to manifests for us.
All right, Marina's asking, what are your tips, including herbs, that could support others to experience confidence regardless of events?
Well, Marina, I'm glad you brought this up, because one aspect I've not mentioned today, because it's not really necessarily appropriate in this milieu, is that confidence as a quality, that sort of, rah, come on, let me at it, with that, in no question, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to conquer it, is a product of strong liver energy. Obviously not in isolation, it has to be in context of all the other organs being well balanced, but it's to do with the liver energy. And by strengthening the liver energy, you tend to strengthen your confidence. And for example, if going to a social do about which you're feeling a little shy, if you were to eat a beetroot, and I'm being totally hypocritical, I utterly hate beetroot, I never eat them myself, but if you were to, your liver blood would be built up, and by the time the evening came around, you would have forgotten all your shyness and awkwardness and be feeling confident. White daikons, white radishes are really good as well. Hard to get though, but chrysanthemum flower, dried chrysanthemum flowers, buy them online from a Chinese herbal store, made into tea as an infusion, or by just dropping 6 or 7 dried flowers on top of boiling water so that they open, and then drinking the fluid through the petals, which is quite romantic. If done 3 times a day or so for a week or so, will increase your liver energy, and with that your confidence. And I think for now, other than saying to press gently around the liver region under the ribs on the right to ease off any contraction or stitchy feeling that you've got there, so that the liver is fully relaxed, and then finally to go sha, and with that sha, you're expelling all fear, all weakness, all lack of confidence from the liver, and leaving it strong and powerful. All of these will help. And finally, the Taoist gel is brilliant. I won't do it too near the thing, but ha! I can't actually do it now because there's a whole group of people in the other room, but ha! Like really powerful, ha! Whack the sound across the room, but really, really loud without straining your throat. Once a day, once a week, whatever, will also increase your confidence. But the main thing is to see yourself looking confident, smiling back at you, giving you the wink and go, come on, you're this is you really.
Amanda says, hi Doc, how much do we create using our own magic, and how much is destiny?
Amanda, if I knew the answer to that, I'd tell you, but I haven't got a clue. My feeling is, for me, I can only talk for me at the moment, and I felt especially poignantly during this supposed facing death process, was that it's all destined. Everything is destined, and every choice I make is something that was programmed into my DNA, into my palm, into my astrology chart, from before I was even conceived, probably. And that there is no point even worrying about whether I'm manifesting any of it or not. It's just destiny. Roll with it. But do it with a big open heart, with an intention to make it beautiful. even in pain, to make it beautiful, not just for myself, but for everyone around me, and to empathize with everyone, and to feel what they're going through, and to support wherever I can, and to receive the support from them. In other words, to amplify the goodness of every moment while surrendering fully to the process of destiny. That's about as best as I've got it at the moment, but that's just me. And I don't think anyone has ever, can, or will ever come up with the absolute defined answer of what really happens. And we just won't. In the Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam, it says that many knots have been unravelled by the road. Aye, many knots, but not the knot of human death and fate.
How many more
this
questions?
This is the last question. One.
How many
because
more?
I've got to go back in.
Sorry.
One, because I've got to go back and do actually got to do the Q&A with John next door now. So.
Okay, one last question, and just before that, a quick note, a happy birthday to Hilda, who says, an inspirational flight, glad I caught it on my birthday. Thank you, Stephen. I know it's not a question, but it deserves to be said.
It deserves to be said, and a really happy birthday to you, lovely Hilda, and bless your heart, and may you have the most amazing year of your life so far. Okay,
the last question is from Elizabeth. Self-doubt is so addictive and surrounds us everywhere as a social norm. Is constant pushback unavoidable?
Hi Elizabeth, that's a lovely question. Constant pushback is unavoidable. It's the drag that I was talking about. You've got your thrust as you move forwards with your intention. You have the resistance to that because of your power meeting with resistance from reality all around you, like the plane meeting with air pressure, and that causes drag, and that's the pushback from the world around you. There is then this natural tendency to doubt oneself, which is us getting lost in the drama of being who we are. That's counteracted by coming into the back of ourselves, wherein we re-identify with the background presence, the big Tao. Remember that all we are is actually, or what we are is a manifestation of that, and that there's nothing to feel unconfident, actually, there's nothing to even feel confident about. The whole issue of confidence is actually dissolves, because it just is. You are the everything is you. Everything is as it's meant to be. Everything's working out perfectly. When we stop running interference on ourselves, whether it's through lack of confidence or anxiety or anything associated with lack of confidence, anger, resentment, self-pity, all the rest of it, when we stop doing that, when we start talking kindly to ourselves by saying, come on, you know what to do, you know what to do, I trust you, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, I know what to do, you know what to do, rather. I like doing the you rather than I. You know what to do, you're doing fine, it's all going to work out great, it's all going to work out great. You just use that as a discipline to supplement or override the negative thoughts, and eventually that becomes the default. Being in the back of you, being the present, and kindly talking to yourself becomes the default mode. And yes, of course, it's inevitable we all get pushed back. That's the fun of the game. That's the ballast for the thrust. Because if we just thrust forwards and we got everything we wanted without any opposition, well, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? I mean, there wouldn't be any fun in the game. It would be dull. And we've got to have a good game while we're sitting around here on the planet, or we get utterly bored and restless. So we must give thanks for these pushbacks. Give thanks for everything. And on that note, I say, let's just take a moment here to give thanks for everything that has been for each of us, including this satsang that we've just shared. Give thanks for being here now, because being alive is the gift of all gifts, and everything this comprises, everyone we each know, all the people we love, all the people we don't know. And give thanks for all the adventures still to come, the big mystery of what's coming next. Whatever it is, give thanks for destiny. Give thanks for the cosmos that facilitates this whole thing. And yeah, just one big thank you to you for being here to make this happen, because it's an amazing experience for me, for sure. I trust and hope it has been similarly for you. I wish you a week ahead of remarkable manifestations, of things occurring within you in terms of your self-confidence that cause totally unprecedented results externally. In other words, may you have a run of miracles so big you need to get a massive warehouse to stick them all in. And that is it, and that is all. Thank you, and cheerio. Brilliant.